Ladies and gentlemen, do not be alarmed. A cynical Brit has been allowed on the air with a microphone. You will listen, or the kitten we have hostage will be forced to fight a giant badger. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a Blue Please. Enjoy. Wow.
Radio.
Yeah, that is right. This is Blue Please, or something along those lines. Anyway, yeah, of course, listen to Wow Radio. This is Blue Please with TotalBiscuit. My German accent is terrible, and I do not apologise for it. Anyway, yes, welcome back to the show. I was on last week. I'm on this week. It's a crazy kind of logical sort of time continuum we've got going here. Now, the last 3 days I've been experimenting whether or not it's possible to live on ice cream bars and beer alone. And I'm coming to the conclusion that yes, it is. However, I seem to be on a sugar high of some description. It's fun. We like it. Okay, right. What exactly is going to go on in today's show? That is a very good question. We will have all the usual features. Ask the Murloc, Rap in the Forums, Imbecile of the Week, Working as Intended, and of course the Nupcake News. And we shall be discussing things. The problem usually after a patch release is that if you've already talked about the patch to death, and the patch has been talked about to death on other shows, there's very little to actually talk about. And that is exactly what is happening right now. The forums are totally devoid of anything remotely interesting, other than the usual spam and nonsense. The content that's already in the game and has been put into the game recently in the, of course, the 1.8 patch has already been discussed to death, although I will still be discussing it anyway. So, coming up later in the show, I'm going to be talking about the new Silithus content and the ganking associated with it. I shall also be asking you, should naming conventions be enforced on non-RP servers? This week's Working as Intended will feature something to rattle your brains, but of course that will be coming up a little bit later on, and I shall be discussing epic quests and clash racials, whether or not they should be put into the game for other classes and other races, and in what form that should take. So, right. First things first, however. As you are well aware, WoW Radio is heading out to BlizzCon. And that means we're going to need some serious gear to do it. We've already purchased a rather expensive server out of our own money. Our cash reserves are drained. Therefore, we are asking for your help. Now, we don't expect you to give this money for nothing. So, I should be doing a fundraiser. And this fundraiser is going to take the place of an epic battle. Yes, I did say
Epic!
It will be a battle between those who wish me to sing karaoke tonight and those who wish me never to sing karaoke ever on this radio station at the pain of death. Now, the winner of this will get their wish granted. If the yeses win, karaoke shall be sung later. If the noes win, karaoke shall never be sung ever. And I mean ever. Now, the way to give to us is by PayPal. That is the usual way of doing things. You go to the donate option on our front page, wcradio.com. You click donate, and you donate some money. And in the note, you put either, yes, I want to hear the karaoke, or no, I never wish to hear the karaoke ever. So, those are your choices. The winner will have their wish granted towards the end of the show. Right. Okay. On to the first topic of the day. Silithus, and pretty much Silithus. Now, from the start of the game, it's been quite obvious that Silithus was an unfinished area. It was bland. It didn't really have much worth having. It had a few quests that ended up in Silithus. It also happened to be the only place in the game where you could farm Essence of Air. Otherwise, it was relatively pointless. Now, pre-patch, you saw things like the details for how to get Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker, the old guy in the wasted camp with the rock elementals. You saw insects, lots and lots of insects, but you did not see a large story-driven quest area. Do we have it now? The answer to that question is pretty much yes. The new Silithus content is exactly what I would be expecting from properly done, story-driven questing zones. It's full of quests, it's full of ideas, and people are actually there, it would seem, for a reason. Now, when I go and do my quests in there, there's always an element of, I've got to collect 20 bits of sandworm or whatever. Yeah, there's always going to be an element of that, but does seem to be a purpose to the zone, and that's always good. We like purpose, otherwise the game becomes a little bit pointless, and as far as I'm concerned, immersion in the game is not emphasised quite as much as it should be. I'll be talking about that in a different element a little bit later on. However, Silithus, is it good, isn't it good? I like your opinions on this. TheMurloc@gmail.com is, of course, the place to email if you have an opinion on the new Silithus content. TheMurloc@gmail.com. Now, my opinion is yes, they've done a good job. I haven't gone as far into it as I wish to first, but I'm intrigued. I am intrigued. The whole Twilight's cult thing is a very interesting thing to put in Silithus. For instance, one of the starting quests, you have to get hold of 3 pieces of a Twilight Hammer's cultist robe. You wear this, and you can summon a lesser spirit. But you can't summon the higher spirits. There are windstones, which you summon them from. The lesser windstone, the windstone, and the greater windstone. Go to the greater windstone, and you will be electrified, effectively. You'll be struck down with a lightning bolt, and they'll tell you to basically sod off. If you are a cultist, you're wearing a cultist outfit, and you go up to a greater windstone, they'll tell you to sod off because you are too inferior, and they won't talk to you. However, go to a lesser one, and you can summon a Templar, which is basically a random elemental. And that is part of a quest. You get a drop-off there. So, it's very interesting in that way. The new mobs are also interesting. For instance, take the Geolords. Geolords have a ranged attack which interrupts casting and knocks you back. It is one of the most irritating things to try and solo as any kind of caster, because a hit is a guaranteed resist. Sorry, interrupt. Bang, interrupted. Bang, interrupted. And if you're not careful, especially say if you're a fire mage tempted to use 3-second cast, bearing in mind that Geolords tend to throw at about 2.8 to 3 seconds, you will be in serious trouble. The mobs themselves are interesting. There's another mob called the Keeper, who effectively attacks using insta-cast fire spells. Can do a lot of burst damage, which is unusual for a mob. You don't expect that kind of thing, and that's a good thing. I like these new mobs. I like the new quests. Now, does it seem a little bit like reputation grinding to get the new recipes? The question is, well, yeah. That's guaranteed to happen. Admittedly. How else would you get reputation? How else would you gain these fantastic rewards, if not to gain reputation with this particular faction? By doing quests and by killing their enemies. There is no other way. It can't be done, so there is always going to be a grinding element in there. Is it a bad thing? Absolutely not. The more crafting, the better, in my opinion. So yes. Silithus. New content. A new summonable raid boss, which is interesting. You don't usually see random raid bosses. You don't get in a random group to take down Kazakh or Zurigus very often, generally speaking, because an organised guild is already on it, or a disorganised guild would simply get their arses handed to them. However, the new dog, and it is a large dog or so I've been told, in Silithus, is killable by a 40-man random raid. He drops nice things, and the quest rewards are excellent. They are very good. Very impressed by them. So, what have we got so far? Quests that mean something. A backstory that is worth investigating. I'd like to know why the Twilight's Hammer are there. Perhaps Leto on his lore show on Mondays could answer that. And of course, leading on to the ancient instance of Anchorage, which is not in the game yet. But it will be. Quite soon. So, it's looking good. Now the question is, are we going to get more instances like that? Sorry, more zones like that? Good question. By the looks of it, there aren't that many zones that haven't been already finished to a satisfactory degree. Silithus was one of them which was blatantly unfinished and had been left. Now, I'm trying to think. Are there many areas? Well, to be honest, I think a little bit of raiding content in Ashenvale would be nice. Low-level raids. We already know that the guards for, say, Astronaut and Splinter Tree Post are a low level. and we already know that raids happen. However, the entire backstory behind this zone is that the War Song are attempting to deforest the area, effectively. They need the resources, whereas the elves are attempting to protect it, or so they claim. But there isn't a lot of content related to that. There's a couple of quests, like, say, kill the Ashen Vale Outrunners. But there aren't all that many quests related to this particular backstory, whereas Silithus has this whole backstory, and the quest line takes you through. Could more quests be added? Or do you think it's perhaps a waste of resources to already add new quests to a level 20 area? Personally, I don't think that's an excuse. I disagree with concentrating fully on level 60 content. Admittedly, it should be weighted towards level 60 content because the majority of players are now level 60 by the looks of it. But filling out those zones so it's simply not a grind fest, and in some places of the game it does feel like that, would be nice. Small quest in Ashen Vale. Fill up the backstory, and of course, by doing so, you increase the immersion factor in the game. Silithus is doing that rather well. Admittedly, there is some grinding, but that's always going to be there. The backstory permeates the entire area. Every quest seems to have a purpose. Every quest seems to lead on to another quest. Say, for instance, killing the sand dredgers. I'm supposed to kill the dredgers, so I go and kill the dredgers. Why am I killing the dredgers? Because they're a threat to the Cenarian hold, which, let's face it, is not the most well-protected area you've ever seen. Kill them? Oh dear. Well, now you've killed the little ones, the big ones are coming up. Right, you've got to unkill those. Okay, that's fair enough. That makes a reasonable degree of sense. It's still a grinding quest. No two ways about it. It's still a kill-on-sight grinding quest. Those mobs will be back within 10 minutes. I know that. However, that's the way the game works. And at least it seems to have a little bit of a purpose, rather than kill this, kill this, kill this, just for the sake of killing it. So, that is the kind of quest I would like to see. And if at some point older areas that perhaps have not received so much tender loving care do get this kind of attention, I will certainly not say no. In fact, I will create an alt specifically to experience that content. And we all have alts, I would assume. So it's not as if creating such content would be to the detriment of the level 60 player. No. The level 60 player has a lot of content already, and it's getting more. It's the priority. But there are always new players who could be immersed more into the game by creating such areas. And of course, you can experience these kind of things with your alts. That's my opinion on Silithus. I shall see if anyone else has sent me their opinion on Silithus before I go into the first break. Let's see. Firefox. Why won't you work for me? I'm sure there's a really good reason. Checking the account, blah 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 blah. Yes. Not doing anything important, blah 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 blah. Yes, someone. Joshua Karp, Iggy of the Cenarian Circle. He says that Silithus is a great zone in every meaning of the word. It has solo content for players below 60 and at 60. Has elite mobs that take a group, bosses that take 10 people, and others that take 40 people. If you cannot raids or go over higher instances, Silithus has a huge amount of content and potential rewards. And quite frankly, I would agree with that. If you look at the rewards, say, for the large doggy dog, the 40-man raid boss, the rewards are on a par with Zul'Gurub stuff. For instance, there's a pair of healing gloves which, as far as I'm aware, are not surpassed by Zul'Gurub content. In fact, arguably, even though they're a blue, they are on the level of some Molten Core stuff. Yeah, it's not a whole set of stuff, as you can get in Molten Core, and it doesn't have some truly exceptional items, but the stuff there is good. And it's nice to see that there seems to be an alternative being created to raiding. Hardcore, MC, Blackwing Lair, Zul'Gurub, that kind of thing. Completing a long series of quests, in my opinion, has always been a good way of getting rewards, and if that's the way the game is going to go, personally, I find that quite pleasing. You're listening to Blue Please, here on WoW Radio, with myself, TotalBiscuit. Now, I think it's time for a break. So, I am going to play something by a band I love called Evergrey, and hopefully you'll like this as well. This is the Master Plan. Enjoy. You're listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Please. You can listen in live on Sundays at 17:30 GMT. That's 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, with a lively musical pre-show kicking off 1 hour beforehand. If you like WOW Radio's productions, then make sure to dig our shows at dig.com and check out our website at www.wcradio.com.
Drop car.
Hey, I need help.
Double. That's not a bag.
Ladies, gentlemen, creatures of questionable gender. Is your luck with the opposite sex nothing short of a curse? Do you have a fashion crisis of epic proportions? Then salvation has arrived with a unique vendor selling all manner of trinkets and clothing. Introducing the World of Warcraft, a WoW culture merchandise store created by the fans for the fans. All manner of stylish items for the fashion-conscious WoW player at extremely competitive prices, with t-shirts starting from a ridiculously low $9.99. Head on over to www.cafepress.com/Warcraft and check out 40 product lines and over 1,000 different products.
Taboo!
Ogres got a brand new bag.
That armor looks good on you. It would also look good on my floor.
I'll give you crazy love.
Yo, faux shizzle and so forth. This is Warcraft Radio. Yes, indeed. The ad may be old, but it's still relevant. The World of Warcraft store is effectively now in association with WoW Radio. Anything you buy from there, a couple of dollars of it goes to us. And we have had some cash out of it, but not as much as we'd like. Anyway, we are raising money today, and we need it. It's that simple. We're buying, hopefully, 2 expensive video cameras and the necessary equipment to broadcast BlizzCon live to you. Now, if we don't get this money, we simply won't be able to do what we intend to do. We intend to record everything in fantastic quality, stream it out live to you, catch everything as it happens, and of course produce a DVD of the event for sale after the event itself. If we don't get the equipment, we can't do it, so it's kind of relying on you. Now, I'm fundraising today, and it is an epic battle. Yes, I did say
Epic.
it's a battle between those who wish to hear me sing karaoke towards the end of the show, and those who do not wish to hear me sing karaoke towards the end of the show. Now, the people who put the most money into a particular choice win it, and I can tell you at the moment that it's very, very even indeed. There's still everything to play for. So, start donating right now. WCRadio.com. Donate bar is on the right-hand side of the screen. If you have PayPal or credit card, you have no excuse. Okay. Now, working as intended. You know what it sounds like, but I'm going to play it again just to torment you. It's working, yeah, it's working as intended, baby. Indeed, it's working as intended. This is the part of the show where we get you to engage your brain before using the internet. So, can you solve this week's mystery? It's a mystery! Well, it's not really a mystery. It's more of a conundrum. So, now, we have seen this week new Silithus item content. Now, as you are well aware, many items have a "of" suffix. So, Master's Robe of the Eagle, Master's Robe of Fiery Wrath, etc., etc. Now, we've seen new things being introduced. Combination suffixes of sorcery, of restoration. For instance, of restoration gives you both healing and mana regeneration. Of sorcery gives you damage and something else I can't quite remember. The point of the matter is combination suffixes. Now, I'd like to know, is this going to be the future of item creation? Is this the way to go? Do you have other ideas of how future items can be created without simply piling more and more and more stats, giving a bigger variety to the amount of items which are viable to use in World of Warcraft? Can you think of any? Do you have some grand scheme for the future of WoW item drops, item crafting, item quest rewards. I want to hear from you. themurloc@gmail.com is the email address. themurloc@gmail.com. It does not have a K after it. Some people keep typoing K and saying, why did my email get there? It's because you spelled it wrong, you silly fool. The Murloc. M-U-R-L-O-C. That is it. The Murloc. No spaces. The Murloc. You know you love it. Okay. So, while you are dredging your brains for that, I'm going to go back to another topic. Game immersion. Now, I was talking about this earlier, as you're well aware, saying that the Silithus content gives more game immersion. It gives a background story to what you're doing in there in the first place. Why am I here? Why was I in Silithus before? To grind Essence of Air. Why am I in Silithus now? To assist the Cenarian Hold in discovering the mystery of the Shifting Sands. That sounds a lot better. Yeah, I'm not on an RP server, but I still appreciate that kind of thing. And as far as I'm concerned, everyone should appreciate game immersion. If you're playing this game to simply farm and be the fat epic master, then perhaps your gaming has been misplaced, and you should be playing Lineage instead. It's a very rich world that Blizzard have created. It's been around for 10 years now. Over 10 years, possibly. The Warcraft world has a lot of potential. It's violent, it's steeped in culture, it's got a good background story. And it has game lore up the wazoo, as Lito's show on Mondays demonstrates. Tune into that, the Ancient of Lore, plug. So, there are various other things that are ruining game immersion. And what I'm going to discuss now is the compromise between freedom of expression and game immersion. What I'd like to point out first would be the idea of a naming convention. Now, a certain popular webcomic, also known as Control-Alt-Delete, which I read religiously, did a post on his front page. Tim Absath did a post on his front page. And what he said was this. He is sick and tired of seeing dude-speaking morons with stupid names, like Killer, which is the name of a priest on our server, and he should be killed because he's a ninja little bastard. Elite Dude, Sniper, Skull Crusher. This is not particularly good, let me put it that way. Now what he said was, you are ruining my game immersion. Get the hell off my server. And quite frankly, I would have to agree with him in some respects, but not others. Before I'm accused of hypocrisy, the name of my in-game main is Total Halibut. That is not remotely related to anything other than the naming convention we used to have in Planetside for our guild, where everyone would take a name with halibut in it. So we'd have halibut, pork halibut, halibut surfer, halibut strap-on. Yes, I'm not kidding, we were a strange guild. Now, being the numpty I am, I didn't ask before joining World of Warcraft whether or not we'd be sticking to those name conventions. So, logging in, I realised that I was the only idiot who decided to keep their halibut name. So, I'm left with this name. I thought, well, I'm going to stick with it, because I like it. So, Total Halibut it was. Total Halibut is now level 60, has been for a while. Now, the question I often ask myself is, as Total Halibut, am I ruining other people's game immersion by being such a silly named character? And I am unsure. I play on a PvP server, so I would assume that the name matters less than an RP server would. Maybe even a PvE. In the whole soup, the massive great swamp of game-ruining, immersionless drivel that is spouted on trade chat, yells, in parties, is one name really that relevant? It's a sort of a moral dilemma. I've come to the conclusion that in such a massive swamp of immersion-ruling drivel, it's not particularly relevant. However, there are lines to be drawn. I think people have to realise that their name gives a reflection on how their character is. For instance, a ganking group in Silithus couple of nights ago on my server, consisted of the names Devil Killer, Serial Killer, and Sleeper Cell. So the famous Night Elf Druid known as Sleeper Cell, Devil Killer, and Serial Killer, another Night Elf Druid. Now, I don't think I've seen anything more ridiculous than two Moonkin chasing me down, named Serial Killer and Sleeper Cell. If I had an immersion in the game at this point, it's been totally evaporated by that. I can't take that seriously. I almost fell around laughing and almost let them gank me. But that, of course, would be unacceptable. They are alliance, and they died, as they should do. Why would anyone pick a name like that? Is it simply because they're young and immature? Maybe they want to do it simply to irritate people. Perhaps they think it's actually cool. Maybe they should raise themselves like a Power Rangers, for instance. An interesting puzzle. So, as Total Halibut, am I the lesser of two evils? Is it even relevant that my name is Total Halibut? Am I ruining other people's gaming experience by being called Total Halibut? It's an almost impossible problem to solve. Dude-speaking morons ruin the game for a lot of people. That we are always well aware of. You've seen it every single time. You'll have experienced ninja looting. You'll have experienced stupid group members that have no idea what they're doing. For instance, a mage that pulls the aggro on a few elites and then whinges when the priest doesn't get around to healing him. A warrior that tanks with a two-hander. It happens. There are people who don't know how to play the game properly. And that does ruin immersion to a respect. But can you stop them? No. It can't be done. You can blacklist as many people as you want from your raids and groups, but inevitably someone else will sneak their way in there and do something incredibly stupid. And whatever epic quest you are on, venturing into the bowels of the Temple of Eternal Evil, will evaporate in an instant when someone yells "water plux" several times over and then calls you a noob for not giving them 60 crystal water. Can you stop it? Absolutely 100% no, you cannot. It cannot be done. It's impossible to get rid of all the idiots. But it raises an interesting question, and the best questions are ones you can never answer, because I don't have to find an answer that's right, and therefore you can't call me wrong. Haha! Losers. Anyway, you're of course listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio. Now, we have had since the dawn of time a feature called Ask the Murloc. And I would like to play you the original Ask the Murloc, just for the sake of it. I haven't heard the original Ask the Murloc for ages, so I'm going to play it for you. What the hell was that all about? How bizarre. So, the Murloc, yes. Our resident Agony Ant, putting the agony back into Ant. This is the original. This is the absolute first Ask the Murloc that was ever recorded. So for all those new to the show, and all those who just want a little bit of nostalgia, this is the one. And this is, most certainly, I should certainly hope so anyway, the only...
Ask the Murloc.
Dear Murloc, I've been a paladin since launch, but I don't have a lot of luck in PvP. Do you have any tips as to how I can improve my survivability?
Aha! There's a stinking, sniveling coward hiding under a few feet of plate armor and a gazillion buffs. I would think the answer would be obvious even to someone as stupid as yourself. If you spot any of these air-threatening horde players within 3 miles of your location, simply gauge Divine Shield and use your Hearthstone. Using this honorable technique, you will ensure that your shiny armor doesn't get any of your filthy entrails all over it next time an orc decides to make mincemeat out of your poncy posterior. Ha!
Ask the Murloc.
Dear Murloc, I'm having trouble earning enough money for my mount. No matter how much I try, I can't grind enough. Please help me.
Ah, my dear boy, the answer is simple. Stop spending, noob. Ha! No, but seriously, pay attention. See those trade skills? Yeah, the pretty buttons. Use them. Build some worthless junk and then palm it off some idiot on the auction house. Work out what people want and then flog it to them at an overinflated price. Christ, it's like no one has a basic grasp of economics these days. Kindly die with a mirror of fuss. Ha ha ha!
Ask the Murloc.
Dear Murloc, I am a human male, and I've fallen in love with a female Tauren from Bloodhoof. Like a tragic Romeo and Juliet scenario, our factions are at war and our union would never possibly be approved. Can you offer any sagely advice?
Ah, yes, my dear chap, I can indeed provide you with some exceedingly sagely advice for just such an occasion. For God's sake, man, you're talking about screwing a giant cow here. Seek help at all costs. Ha ha!
Ask the Murloc.
You're listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Please. You can listen in live on Sundays at 17:30 GMT. That's 12:30 Eastern Standard Time with a lively musical pre-show kicking off 1 hour beforehand. If you like WoW Radio's productions, then make sure to dig our shows at dig.com and check out our website at www.wcradio.com. Ladies and gentlemen, do not be alarmed. A cynical Brit has been allowed on the air with a microphone. You will listen, or the kitten we have hostage will be forced to fight a giant badger. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a Blue Please. Enjoy. Wow.
Radio.
Yes, indeed, folks. You listen to Blue Please here on WoW Radio, and here's the background music. As expected. There we go. Right, just a quick question to someone who PM'd me. I don't have time to answer really complex lore questions while I'm doing a show to over 400 listeners. It just doesn't work. Very busy. Trying to think of what I'm supposed to be saying next. Trying to put on a show that sounds reasonably good. So, if I don't reply to you or whatever, I don't do shout out, or I don't spend hours and hours discussing a single, reasonably irrelevant topic with you and you alone, forsaking everyone else, then please understand, I'm quite busy. Anyway, shout-outs. I have several to go out, so I shall get on with those right now before we go on. A shout-out goes to Koloman Kuririt. That's not a real name. We were the Finnish guild with the impossible name. We have quite a few people listening. That is from Keepalo. Let's see who else. Who else wants a shout-out? Shout-out to Denwo and Denwo Elite on the Shadow Song realm. Congrats on the recent accomplishment in ZG. That is from J Rock. Let's see, anyone else? Yes. WoW Radio 967, also known as Ukshan, whatever his name is. Hey there, TB, please do a shout-out for my guild on Dark Sorrow called Going Nowhere Slow. We're about to raid Duskwood. Tell them to get ready. Fantastic. Always love the raiding. And do we have any more? I believe we do. Let me just find them and then I'll get on with the show and see what you've come up with for this week's Working As Intended. Requesting a shout-out. Blah, 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 blah. Come on, load. There we go. Volps is requesting a shout-out to Knight Archer on June Mall EU for being a great raid leader and a brilliant dictator. Thanks and keep it up. Fair enough. There we go. Okay. Working As Intended. Do we have any replies yet? And do we have any donations yet? The answer is yes. We do have donations, but we need more. We need far more, in fact. Otherwise, we're not going to be getting anywhere. So, if you have money, a few measly dollars, consider how much it takes to keep this station on the air. 1.2 terabytes of data every month is not cheap. Neither is the server. And consider the amount of time we put into it just for your listening pleasure. Is it worth a couple of your hard-earned dollars? I should hope so. Head on over to wcradio.com, click the donate button, and give us some money. And of course, the fundraiser today is send with your donation a request. Either TotalBiscuit should sing karaoke, or TotalBiscuit should not sing karaoke. And of course, the winner will have their wish as my command. Right. Adam Brown, also known as Sinden, on this week's Working As Intended topic, which is, of course, how should we proceed as far as new items, whether they be drops or crafting, should go. He says this: crafters should be able to make items with the suffixes you spoke of, e.g. tailors should be able to make a mooncloth robe of restoration. You get different recipes for each suffix rather than each item, so you get a recipe that teaches of restoration for all items rather than just one item. Also, if you have a full set of suffix, you should get a bonus. Using, for example, a full restoration person should get a bonus for having all items being of that specific suffix. Not a bad idea. I like that. If you've got any other ideas as to the future of not only crafted items, but drops, bearing in mind the new things that have come out recently, the of restoration, of sorcery suffixes, then let me know. themurloc@gmail.com. Okay. Now, back onto the topic. We just talked about game immersion. And being the typical sort of person who says, yes, let's continue talking about that. I'm going to talk about something completely different. Now, epic quests and class racials. That's my next topic for the day. Firstly, I'd like to know where the heck the mage epic quest is. Water is not epic. It never will be epic. I almost rue the day I went down into Dire Maul to get my epic water quest, or so they claim. Crystal water. We should not be calling it epic water anymore. It's blatantly not epic. I almost rue the day, because the amount of water plux requests I get every day as a mage in Orgrimmar is obscene. Not only is it obscene, but every time I go into Molten Core, I am a vending machine for the first half an hour, until I've created enough water for everyone. Now, I don't necessarily mind doing that, but it has to be said that Blizzard seem to have made it as difficult as possible to fulfill my role in that respect. I'm only able to conjure 4 crystal water per stack. The spell itself... Per spell. The spell itself costs around 700 mana. It drains an entire mana bar for me, a damage-orientated mage, to create a stack of crystal water. That is a pain in the arse. And it doesn't need to be. Is there any justification? Let's look at the spell itself. The water requires level 55 to use, and yet, using the standard conventions for water creation, spells go up every level. When it comes to water and food creation spells, they go up every level. And every level you get an additional 2 on the stack. However, you can only get the water quest at level 60. So, if Blizzard were to follow the standard convention there, you would be able to create 2 of that kind of water at level 60. However, the water itself is level 55. So, if we were to follow that convention, you would be able to create, let's see, 10, possibly. I never was good at maths, but yes, I assume it's 10. Now, is there any justification for keeping it at 4? Absolutely not. As far as I'm concerned, there is no justification for making our lives a misery. It's not fun. There's no justification for it, and that should be changed. But that is by the by. The point of the matter is that is not an epic quest. That is a burden more than anything. It's not a burden having Lokdalar and Rokdalar as a hunter. It's a blessing. You have 2 excellent weapons. What do we get? The ability to be a water bot for people. Wow, I am truly astounded by that. That's brilliant. But the fact is we do not have an epic quest, and we're not the only class to suffer from that. I'm trying to think off the top of my head who doesn't. Druids do not have an epic quest. Paladins do not, as far as I'm aware, unless you count the epic mount, have an epic quest. I also wouldn't count Kel Sirar either. Warriors have an epic quest in the form of Kel Sirar. Hunters have an epic quest in the form of Rokdalar and Lokdalar. Priests have an epic quest in the form of Benediction. Rogues, do you have an epic quest? No, you do not. I didn't think so. Rogues don't have an epic quest. Paladins, arguably, if you do not count the epic mount, do not have an epic quest. Warlocks are the same. Druids are the same. Shamans have an epic quest in the form of their Sky Fury Helm, assuming that can be classed as an epic quest in comparison to Rokdalar and Benediction. It's not exactly on the same level, although it has received a buff recently. Where are the epic quests? It seems to me that they can't be that difficult to put into the game, and there is an inconsistency. I don't believe Blizzard can possibly think that we as mages do not require an epic quest, or druids do not require an epic quest. Benediction is a fantastic weapon. It is unbeatable. It is the best priest staff in the game, bar none. End of story. Now, mages have a choice of what they can use. End game, they could be using some of the things from Blackwing Lair, or they could be using Staff of Dominance. Maybe a Sorcerer's Dagger with a combo offhander, perhaps the Fire Rune Grimoire, or one of the Alterac Valley rewards. Or they could be using, of course, the Mage Blade, which would make perfect sense, being the best one-hander offensive caster weapon in the game at this point. But we don't get an epic quest. We don't get some kind of thing that says, this item begins a quest, and we have to follow through a large and heavy requirement quest to get some kind of fantastic item. We don't get that. I don't see any reason for that, and it seems to be an inconsistency. Now, whether or not that's come from WoW being an unfinished title, which is acceptable, bearing in mind, we know they released it to compete with EverQuest 2, and it worked. It took a lot of players away, and, you know, you were successful then. That's good. I don't mind you doing that. You are a business. Blizzard are a business. They're out to make as much profit as they possibly can, and rightly so. That is the way business operates in this capitalist world. However, whether or not it's acceptable for epic quests to be half and half in the game, some classes getting and some classes not, is not keen on that idea. Whether or not we're going to see more is questionable. Probably. I expect we'll get some a little bit later on, but it does make me wonder why, after how many patches, they're not already in the game. They cannot require that much effort. Mysterious. And it leads me on to something else which seemed to be a little bit unfinished, and whether or not this is justifiable, and that is class racials. Now, the only, please correct me if I'm wrong here, I'm reasonably sure that I'm not, the only class with class-specific racial abilities is the priest. As an undead, you get Devouring Plague. As a troll, you get Hex of Weakness, and I believe you get some kind of Shadow Ward. Now, every race that can be a priest has this. They can do something. We already know that Dwarven priests get Fear Ward, which is one of the most useful abilities in the game. Where are the racials for everyone else? Now, is there a lore reason behind this? Was it story-driven? Perhaps it was because an undead priest is expected to be different to a human priest. Human priests get Desperate Prayer, for instance, whereas undead priests get Devouring Plague. There was a blatant difference there. One seems to be geared towards Holy, and the other is geared towards Shadow. Is that for a story-based reason? Bearing in mind that obviously, were an undead priest to worship a particular deity, it would not be the same deity as a human priest. That is reasonably obvious. Is it there for a reason? Possibly. Does it override the perhaps potential need for more variety? No, I don't believe so. Lore reasons should not necessarily override game mechanics. I've been saying this since day one, and I agree with it, and I still think this way. It seems to me to be a little bit of an oversight, and something which should perhaps be introduced either in a future patch, and all races, all class combinations given a racial of some description. The balancing can be done later. Or it should be part of the expansion pack. I would say it should be a content patch. It should be something that's in the game. At this point, there is no real reason for me to be a troll, other than I like being a troll. I like being a troll. It's a good race. It's my favourite race. So, that's really the only reason. That is the only reason I'm a troll, because I like the look of them. I'm not there for the racials. Berserking is not a lot of use to me. If I'm getting critical hitted, then I'm doing something wrong anyway. And if I've been critical hitted as a mage, I'm not going to survive very long. While it's useful to certainly a warrior, and I'd say a rogue in solo PvE, that's very handy, or a rogue in PvP perhaps. There isn't that much of a distinction between the classes. And, sorry, between the races, of course. It would be nice to see class-specific racials for people that aren't just priests. And that's really all I've got to say on that particular topic. I think it was probably an oversight. An oversight that cannot be justified by a reason in game law, because game law should never override game mechanics. And I believe it's something that should be looked into. It would add more variety to the game, and it would give a reason to be a particular combination. We already know that there are ratios which are useful for particular classes. For instance, the reason you would play a caster gnome would be because of the the intellect increase. Wisdom? Bloody hell. I'm back in old D&D again. That's the reason you would play a caster gnome, because you get more intellect. But that isn't particularly relevant to warriors and rogues. Totally irrelevant. Class-specific racials would be nice. So yeah, that's really all I've got to say on that particular topic, and now I'm about to go into a break, so let's see what track we can play. Something epic would be nice, so that's exactly what I'm going to play. Master Plan is the name of a band that I particularly enjoy. And this is called Back for My Life. Enjoy.
Yo, fuzz, shizzle and so forth. Yes, indeed, it's time for another edition of Rapping the Forums. This is the part of the show where we take silly posts and make them into silly raps in a sort of cookery-style fashion. Okay, time for the first rap of the day. Are we ready for this one? Oh, yes. It's a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. I write this cause everyone I know playing WoW has more and more trouble with WoW, like lag and bugs and those things, ... I bet a lot others out there has the same problems, ... And yet Blizzard uses its resources on new stuff to put in the game, like the dressing room and such. I really don't get it, ... Why not solve the problems that there's before adding new stuff? In my humble opinion, that's like adding cargo to a sinking ship. More stuff aren't gonna change the fact that a lot of people are experiencing trying to sell to vendor 5 to 6 times before he accepts it, ... I mean, I know a bit of lag is unavoidable, but no one I know is experiencing a bit of lag. We all got lots of lag, ... That being from vendors when trying to sell, or from Quest NPCs and the like. I'm not trying to be mean towards Blizzard in any way, but I'd like for them to listen and consider that we are the ones paying for a project that we would like to work with. No more that usual online game hassle. I've tried everything now, bought a new PC, cause none of Blizzard support team's advice had any effect, ... and still it's the same even with the new PC in mint condition with my 4MB uplink can make it run reasonable well. So I ask of you fellow WoW player, if you agree with this, I have written respond to this message with agreement. If enough share this view, Blizzard might listen and do something about it, other than just adding more stuff and therein more lag and troubles, ... More stuff is cool, but let's make the stuff that there's work satisfactory before acting new things that can cause new problems. Let's get Blizzard moving in the direction that give our beloved game a future. I thank you for your time.
Watch out everyone, the farm bots be down in the ghetto. This one's from Rothner, level 60, Undead Priest. Guild is incoming, realm is Doomhammer. Are we ready? It's a 5 and a 2 and a 6 and a 3. Farm bot buzzing last night at 3 o'clock. I went to forward to see if I could get me a water essence or two. There was an undeath rogue farming there too, and I had seen him every time I'd been up there every weekend. So I whispered him, why are you farming so many water essences? Cause I had seen he had 7 essences on AHIMO. If you just wanna farm money, there's better ways. He didn't answer, so I tried a bit times to still nothing, so I just farmed for a while. I was sitting drinking when it struck me that he ran the same strange route every time, so I followed him around at OMFG. It was a bot exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. There was no doubt, I wrote a lot of people, and at the end, there was 7 of us just watching the bot do its thing. MZ came and shoot a video of the punk. We'll post it in this thread later. The rogue is called Kamimimaro, and he's from the guild EIG. The players that witnessed him was Mygen, Big Willie and Miski from Norwindvend, and me, Laura Lerg and Swampy from Incoming. We followed him around for like an hour to make sure that the video will leave no doubt that it was a bot. We OFC reported him to a GM. If this creep does this every night while he's sleeping, he can farm 100 essence of water in 2 nights and completely control the price on age. I hope the GMs will delete his account, and I'm sure the guild EIG will kick him first. At least Chinese Go Farmer worked for their money. Wish this was a PvP server, so I could just call my mate Pedro and make him come kill his sorry ass. Would like a reply from someone in IEG.
You're listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Please. You can listen in live on Sundays at 17:30 GMT. That's 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, with a lively musical pre-show kicking off 1 hour beforehand. If you like WoW Radio's productions, then make sure to dig our shows at dig.com and check out our website at www.wcradio.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, do not be alarmed. A cynical Brit has been allowed on the air with a microphone. You will listen, or the kitten we have hostage will be forced to fight a giant badger. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a Blue Please. Enjoy. Wow Radio. Yes, indeed. The sounds of rap in the forums here on WoW Radio. This is, of course, Blue Please with myself, TotalBiscuit. Yes, rap in the forums is unfortunately very, very real. It is a grave threat to us all and should be destroyed. Alright, okay, back on to the topic. We are raising money, or at least we're trying to. We need equipment for BlizzCon. We need industry-grade, or at least commercial-grade, video cameras. At least 2 of them, preferably, so that we can catch everything. With 1, we're gonna miss some of the good things which are going on. And you wouldn't want that, would you? And you can help by giving money. Even if it's a small amount, every little helps. And to do the fundraising, I'm doing a little fundraiser tonight. Karaoke. If you want me to sing karaoke, you can give money. If you don't want me to sing karaoke, you can give money. The person, or the people, of course, who donate the most will have their wish as my command. Now, I just noticed that in the PayPal box there is not an option for sending a message. So if you do donate, PM your details to Athelus with your vote yes or no. By the sounds of it, from what people have been saying, it's been pretty even so far. So if you want to sway the vote in your favour, then do it. The result and the resulting thing, whatever that may be, whether it be total silence or horrible karaoke doom, will be happening in the next 15 minutes, only here on WoW Radio. We are raising funds, we are going to BlizzCon, give us your money or we will steal your things. Is pretty much the theme of today. Now, Nefarion is dead. Horribly dead. Now, I was told and informed that the first Nefarion kill was in fact an exploit. Whether or not that was true, I really do not know. All I am now aware is that several guilds, EU guilds, and I assume US guilds as well, have taken Nefarion down. I saw his head in Orgrimmar on my server. I wasn't particularly pleased that the buff wasn't better than the Onyxia buff, but never mind. Buffs are buffs, and it is rather cool head. We had a Onyxia and Nefarion head next to each other, and it was like, hey, that's great stuff. We like that kind of thing. So congratulations to Synergy from my server and anyone else who has successfully managed to take down Nefarion. What's next? Big Challenge is down. Now it's on farm status. That's kind of sad in a way. It's been ages since Blackwing Lair was released. Was it 1.6, 1.5? I think it was 1.6. I may be wrong there. Blackwing Lair was released. It was not put on the test server. It was a total and complete mystery, and it has taken this long for people to beat it, and that is encouraging. Because if people have an aim like that, they will shoot for it, and that's the reason they will continue to play the game. My current aim, and our guild's current aim, is to conquer Molten Core. we're 4 bosses down. And Geddon is going down next. Then Shaz, Golem Sulfur and Major Domo, and then hopefully Ragnaros. And of course we've still got Onyxia to beat, and then that's not even thinking about Blackwing Lair, or Kazakh, or Azuragus, or any of the 4 new Emerald Dragons, which we'll be attempting later. Plenty of goals still for our guild. What about the guilds who don't have any goals anymore? What about those guilds who took down Nefarion? Nefarion, if they take him down next time, maybe on farm status. They have no real goals other than to kit themselves up from Blackwing Lair. New instances. Now, I've been commenting for the past couple of weeks as to whether or not just adding harder and harder and harder instances is the way to go. And I think there's a place for it. There is definitely a place for it. Because right now, I cannot envisage myself quitting WoW anytime soon, other than for some reason from an external force. I wouldn't willingly quit WoW at this point, because there's plenty more for me and my guild to do. What about for those who've done it all? New instances, harder instances, definitely need to be put into the game. Anchorage is coming soon. It's a combination instance. There's a initial instance, which is 20-man, apparently slightly harder than Zul'Gurub, and a new 40-man instance on the level of Blackwing Lair with an ancient god as the final boss. That should be fun. Should it be put into the game? Absolutely. Should more instances like that be put in the game? Yeah, basically. Because if you don't, you're going to end up with people getting horribly bored. And that's the enemy of every single MMORPG on the planet, is that a large guild gets bored and leaves. People see that as a sign of a failing game. They look to these guilds often in admiration, perhaps jealousy, perhaps they don't like them. But they can't help but admire how far they've got into the game, whereas they have failed to get to that stage, whether it be through lack of time, or simply due to lack of members, lack of organisation, etc., etc. When a guild like that leaves the game, it's a sad day. They may have been a bunch of complete and total wankers, but it's still a sad day to see a large guild leave due to lack of content, because that is a harbinger of doom. It will grow on people's mind, it will become an issue to them, that the game perhaps does not have enough content. How do you fix it? More instances. More content. And again, I would agree with the policy of not putting this kind of thing on the test server. I disagreed with Zul'Gurub being put on the test server. Blackwing Lair had its problems because it wasn't put on the test server, but they were eventually fixed. And it's taken this long to finish Blackwing Lair. Zul'Gurub was beaten in the first night it was released. Why? Because people had beaten it already on the test server. They knew what to do. Strats were out before I even started. We watched a few videos of the initial few bosses. People knew how to do it, and they did it first couple of tries. Her car was down the first night Zul'Gurub was released. That was quite a sad thing to see. I did not want to see her car go down, especially bearing in mind the encounters in there are so interesting. It was seemingly counterproductive to put that on the test server. But you can partially blame the players for that. Players complained that Blackwing Lair was bugged. Yeah, it's fine. You complained that the content was bugged. However, you also didn't want it on the test server, which is a way of shaking down the content. You got to bear in mind that players, an infinite number of players will do an infinite number of stupid things, and they will find issues with the content that the testers and internal staff will not necessarily find. That's the advantage of the test server, assuming Blizzard do listen to the concerns put on the test server feedback. But the advantage of not putting it on the test server is a degree of mystery left in the game. And let's face it, there's not a lot of that left. Thoughtbot, Alakazam and that kind of thing have seen to that. They're great resources, but there is not all that much exploration, and there's certainly not all that much mystery left in the game at this point. Now, I would hope that Anchorage is tested thoroughly, internally, and put on the server whether or not it's buggy or not. They can hotfix it later if they wish. They can fix it in the next patch. As long as there's nothing game-breaking in there, put it in. Let people discover the crazy little elements of the instance for themselves. It's all about game immersion. I've said it before, I'll say it again. You you can't immerse yourself in an instance that you know back to front. It becomes a farming one for you. And if you know an instance back to front before you even go inside, that's even worse. And it happens. People know. They know how to do these instances already. How do they know? It's quite simple. They know because they've tried it. It was on the test server for them. It's a difficult balancing act. There are advantages to both. Now, I would lean in favour of not putting the things on the test server. I would lean in favour of that. And it's because of game immersion. It's because of mystery, and it's because of longevity. Bear in mind how long it takes to create a new instance and get it on there. It should not, as far as I'm concerned, an instance should not be being beaten before the next big instance is released. Blackwing Lair was not beaten until after Zul'Gurub, but Zul'Gurub was beaten in a night. That's illogical. Yes, Zul'Gurub is not supposed to be as difficult as Blackwing Lair, but it should not have been beaten in a night. And the reason it was beaten in a night was because everyone knew what to do. And that was because it was on the test server. And you know what? It was still bugged. There are still issues with Zul'Gurub. They're only just fixed. For instance, the first boss, we found out the stopping the bats tactic was in fact an exploit, and this was fixed. It's made the bat harder, but still beatable. So, really, it's a matter of what do you choose? Do you choose to keep the mystery? Or would you like a more bug-free experience? And it goes all the way back to the argument of fix existing content over adding new content. Which do you prioritise? The answer should be you prioritise neither, because different teams work on different things. You don't have your art team working on technical bug fixing. It doesn't happen. That's the way a game studio works. But it often seems to some people, and perhaps even to me from time to time, that things are being prioritised over other things. Bug fixing being prioritised over new content being prioritised over bug fixing, even though that shouldn't be happening in the first place. My opinion is I prefer new content. I want to see new things in the game, and I want new things to shoot for. By the time Anchorage is actually released, I doubt we'll have finished Molten Core. So we've still got what we've got left of Zul'Gurub to do. We've got Molten Core, we've got Blackwing Lair, and we'll have Anchorage. That is enough content to keep us interested in the game for months and months and months. And I would hope that's exactly what Blizzard is thinking. They're thinking, the majority of the guilds in the game are perhaps not people who are cracking Blackwing Lair this quickly. We can get that content out. But I would hope that they do not forsake the idea of mystery and game immersion for the test server, because I don't agree with it. Test server's a great idea, but it does ruin game immersion. And I don't like that. And I don't think I ever will, which is the reason I don't use the test server. I don't want to know about this content. Other than the stuff which I get for the show to tell you, I generally do not want to know about new content because I would like to discover it for myself. Okay, you're listening to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, TotalBiscuit. It is time for the No Cake News. This is a sarcasm and satire warning. While topical, this feature is not meant to be serious. It is a joke. It is satirical. If you cannot deal with satire, sarcasm, irony, or typical British humour, please tune out right now. This is Nubcake News. Welcome to this week's edition of Nubcake News. Coming up later, a special report on some random thing with no actual significance tacked onto this particular feature to fill up 5 seconds of it and make it sound like it's some kind of actual real news broadcast. But first, a mysterious and unexplainable phenomenon that scientists have been describing as OMG Nerf has been occurring throughout the world recently. In what appears to be some kind of mass crime wave, innocent warriors and rogues have been waking up to find their Arcanite Reapers and Barman Shankers stolen and replaced by tins of herring and plastic golf clubs. Undeterred by this hideous event, many elite classes went back to PvP, only to find that attempting to backstab players with a small plaster recreation of a walrus was not quite as effective as they'd hoped. Ignoring the possibility of using other weapons, thousands of players have been battering at the doors of the famous Dr. Nerfenstein in desperate need of help and answers. He finally emerged from his secret island Fortress of Doom to speak to the people and issued the following statement. Ladies and gentlemen, please do not be alarmed. We are already working on the problem as we speak. This strange phenomenon will be investigated and an answer will be found. We have the utmost confidence in our... What? But you have the answer already? Don't cough, you damn kids with your music. Ladies and gentlemen, we have found the culprit in this mysterious charade. The multinational criminal organization of hacks. Blizzard is responsible for this. They are using secret internet teleportation devices to beam your slow and powerful weapons into some secret underground lair and force you to use others' weapons. Naturally, it is unthinkable for any of you to actually use anything other than the preset weapon for your cookie cutter build, so we shall march on Blizzard's secret underground lair and take the weapons back by force. We unfortunately don't know where the Blizzard's secret underground lair actually is, but we shall write them a threatening open letter immediately. Following this threatening open letter, Blizzard apparently quaked in unspeakable dread. Or rather, they didn't, and simply issued the following statement.
We here at Blizzard are listening to your concerns. Please send us your letters of concern so that we can read them.
And we will look into that. As an right. Oh, sorry. No, I can't. It's too funny.
You must all learn to play your class, noobs. We hate all melee users. Next patch, we shall be removing all uncommon, superior, and epic quality weapons from the game. Rogues will be forced to use level 1 daggers, since we hear you're quite good with this kind of thing. Warriors will be forced to do damage with shield bash only. Thank you for your time and enjoy our fantastic game.
We here at Nubcake News are totally satisfied with Blizzard's response and have definitely not been paid large amounts of money to say so. You can be confident in our independent We Love Blizzard reporting. This has been Nubcake News. Good night.
You're listening to the podcast and archive of Blue Please. You can listen in live on Sundays at 17:30 GMT. That's 12:30 Eastern Standard Time with a lively musical pre-show kicking off 1 hour beforehand. If you like WoW Radio's productions, then make sure to dig our shows at dig.com and check out our website at www.wcradio.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, do not be alarmed. A cynical Brit has been allowed on the air with a microphone. You will listen, or the kitten we have hostage will be forced to fight a giant badger. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a Blue Please. Enjoy. Wow.
Radio.
Yes, indeed, the sounds of the one and only Hell March taken from Command & Conquer Red Alert soundtrack. Oh, I do love game music, it's fantastic. This is Blue Please here on WoW Radio. I've only got a couple of things left to do in the show, and then I've got to head off to a Molten Core raid, because apparently 2 things I wanted have already dropped, and I'm not pleased! Let that be known. Oh, never mind. I'll always drop another time. Right. Imbecile of the Week. Also known as... Imbecile of the Week. Imbecile of the Week. And not Imbar Seal of the Week. Nerf Seal, whatever seal may be. No! Imbecile of the Week. Now, this is a good one. While I really appreciate role-playing, there are times when it goes a little bit too far. And in this respect, I am going to show you when. Imbecile of the Week. I'm going to link this in the main channel, and I should be posting it after the show in my show forum for those who are listening to the archive and the podcast. Now, this guy, level 24 Shaman on the Defiance Brotherhood. He says, anytime I'm in Ashenvale and not fighting, I'm a wolf. Just a wolf. Yet every alliance, mostly elves, go figure, I've encountered so far didn't treat me as a wolf, but instantly went to a huge killing spree because of the probably red name above my wolf. How would you know the wolf is a horde shaman in disguise and not just a wolf? For an RP server, you'd expect to see a wolf, not to see the red letters above it and kill it. Most annoyingly, it's on the way to a quest or going back from a quest, and I get killed. Stop killing innocent wolves. Okay, so what he's basically saying is, I'm a wolf, honest. It's sort of like saying, I'm a tree. You can't see me. I've got my head in the sand. You can't kill me because I'm hiding as a wolf. Well, to start with, most wolves are not semi-transparent. I don't know. There may be some, but if there are, I haven't really seen them. I would find it mildly suspicious to see a wolf that does not look like the other wolves, and it doesn't, sitting amongst a whole bunch of other wolves that I could see through. Now, that is a little bit suspicious. To the average night elf, they would probably suspect something. And a ghost wolf is, of course, a shaman ability. Shaman of the Horde, shamans are the Horde, therefore the Horde are the enemy. Shamans are the enemy, ghost wolves are the enemy, they should be killed. But no, it's an RP server, we can't have that. Okay, well, let's follow your thing through. I'm a bear. A druid. I'm a bear. You can't kill me, because I'm a bear. It's irrelevant that the wolf or the bear aggroes me, whether I'm an elf or otherwise. I'm a bear. You can't kill me. Ignore the fact that I look totally different to any other bear here, or that I am acting in a very odd fashion. A fashion perhaps worth investigation. No, I'm a bear! You can't kill me. This is role-playing. That's got to be one of the silliest things I've seen in a very long time. No. Unacceptable. I'm a dangerous animal. Not only am I a dangerous animal, I'm a dangerous, translucent animal that is probably not what it appears to be. Kill me now! Please. And that was, of course, Imbecile of the week. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. And another bit of oh dear, folks. Now, I've been doing a donation drive. I can't say I've had as many donations as I would have liked. You are all ungrateful little swine. If you have some cash and you're listening to the podcast or you wish to donate, then donate via PayPal. If you can't, yes, we accept postal donations. Get in touch with Athelus and get his address. So, I'm afraid to tell you that in our karaoke fundraising challenge, yes, I am creating suspense. That's why I'm quiet. I'm not wasting time or anything. The yeses won. And that means I have to sing karaoke. So that is exactly what I'm going to do right now. You gave the money. Your wish is my command. Sing something nice and easy, because I'm not very good at singing. See how many listeners we drive away. The money was given. The donation drive was done. The fundraising is certainly far from complete, but it did help. It's karaoke. It's karaoke with an easy audio slave track. Try to enjoy it. That's all from me, folks. Thanks for listening to Blue Please. Tune in to the shows later on in the week. It's good night from me.